The studio lights burned brighter than usual that morning, casting a sharp glow across the iconic set of The View. The air felt different, charged, almost electric, as if something unseen was waiting to explode. The audience settled into their seats, murmurs rippling like distant thunder, unaware they were about to witness a moment that would send shockwaves across the entertainment world. And then she walked in. Jennifer Lopez. Confident, radiant, untouchable, or at least, that's how she always appeared. But today, there was something else beneath that polished exterior. A quiet tension. A storm waiting for the right spark. The hosts welcomed her with smiles, applause filling the room, but when Sunny Hostin leaned forward, her eyes sharp with curiosity, something shifted. Something subtle, but dangerous. Before we dive deeper into what happened next, make sure you subscribe to Talk Battles, hit that like button, and drop a comment if you love intense celebrity showdowns like this. Because what you're about to hear, you won't forget. Jennifer sat gracefully, crossing her legs, flashing that signature smile that had conquered Hollywood, music charts, and global stages. The conversation started light. Her latest projects, her relentless work ethic, her upcoming film, and her return to music. She spoke about long nights in the studio, the pressure to stay relevant, and how she still feels like she has something to prove. "I've never been comfortable just coasting," she said, her voice steady but filled with quiet intensity. "Every project, every performance, it's personal." Sunny nodded, but her expression wasn't entirely warm. It was analytical, almost probing. "And yet," Sunny interjected, her tone calm but pointed, "some critics say your recent work feels safe, that it leans more on your legacy than risk." The room stilled. It was subtle, but the shift was immediate. Jennifer's smile didn't vanish, but it tightened. "Safe?" she repeated, tilting her head slightly. "That's interesting." A soft murmur rippled through the audience. Sunny leaned forward, sensing the tension but not backing down. "You've had an incredible career, no one denies that. But when you reach a certain level, the expectations change. People want evolution. They want to see you take bigger risks." For a split second, Jennifer said nothing. And in that silence, everything changed. Her eyes sharpened. Her posture stiffened. "I think," she began slowly, "people forget how much risk it takes just to stay in this industry. To keep showing up. To keep creating when everyone's waiting for you to fail." The audience clapped lightly, sensing the shift, but Sunny wasn't done. "I agree," Sunny replied, "but staying isn't the same as evolving. Some would argue that your personal life has taken more headlines than your work lately." Gasps. Real, audible gasps. The kind that echo. Jennifer blinked once, clearly caught off guard, but only for a moment. Then she leaned forward. "So now we're talking about my personal life?" she said, her voice lower, more controlled. Sunny held her ground. "It's part of your public image. Your relationships, your marriages, they've been very public. And some people feel it overshadows your artistry." The audience shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't just an interview anymore. This was a confrontation. Jennifer let out a soft laugh, but it wasn't warm. "You know what's interesting?" she said. "People love to celebrate your wins, but they're even more fascinated by your struggles. Especially when you're a woman." Applause erupted, but it was mixed with tension. Sunny crossed her arms slightly. "That may be true, but accountability matters too." And just like that, the line was drawn. Jennifer's expression hardened. "Accountability," she echoed. "For what? For living my life. For loving openly. For not pretending to be perfect." Her voice rose, not dramatically, but enough to command the room. Sunny responded instantly. "For the image you present. When you position yourself as a role model, people expect consistency." The audience was no longer just watching. They were leaning in, holding their breath. Jennifer shook her head slowly, her emotions now unmistakable. "I've never claimed to be perfect. I've only ever claimed to be real." The tension between them was undeniable now, palpable, almost suffocating. One of the co-hosts tried to step in, offering a lighter question, but it was too late. The moment had already taken on a life of its own. Sunny spoke again, quieter this time, but sharper. "Being real doesn't mean being above criticism." Jennifer's eyes locked onto hers. "And criticizing doesn't mean understanding," she shot back. The audience erupted, some clapping, some stunned into silence. This wasn't just a debate. This was personal. And it was only the beginning. Because beneath the surface of this exchange, deeper emotions were rising. Old wounds. Unspoken judgments. The kind that don't fade under studio lights. they ignite, and what happened next would push both women further than anyone expected, turning a simple interview into a moment that would dominate headlines, divide audiences, and leave the entire studio in stunned silence. The storm had only just begun. The tension didn't fade when the cameras cut to a brief pause. It intensified. The smiles disappeared, replaced by something far more real. The kind of raw emotion that no script can contain. Jennifer leaned back slightly, exhaling as if trying to regain control. But her eyes told a different story. This wasn't just about a question. It wasn't just about criticism. It felt personal. Sunny, on the other hand, remained composed, but there was a flicker in her expression. Determination. Maybe even frustration. She wasn't backing down. When the cameras rolled again, the atmosphere was heavier, different. Jennifer spoke first this time. "You know," she said, her voice softer but carrying weight, "I've spent decades building my career. Not just as a performer, but as a woman navigating an industry that constantly tries to define you." The audience listened, silent now. "I've been told I'm not enough, too much, too ambitious, not serious enough. And somehow I'm still here." Applause broke out louder this time. But Sunny didn't clap. She leaned in again. "And that's exactly why people hold you to a higher standard," she said. "Because you've overcome so much. Because you represent something bigger." Jennifer's gaze didn't waver. "But who decides that standard?" she asked. Sunny answered immediately. "The audience. The culture. The people who look up to you." Jennifer shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "I decide that. Because I'm the one living my life." The words landed hard. And just like that, the conversation crossed another line. What started as an interview had become something else entirely, a battle of perspectives, of identity, of control. And as the audience watched, caught between admiration and shock, one thing became clear. Neither of them was willing to step back. Not now, not after this. The moment the cameras returned from the short break, the energy in the studio had shifted into something far heavier than before. It wasn't just tension anymore, it was anticipation. The kind that makes people sit a little straighter, breathe a little quieter, and wait for something irreversible to happen. Jennifer Lopez didn't adjust her posture this time. She didn't soften her expression. Whatever instinct usually guided her to maintain control, to smooth over rough edges in public moments, it was gone. Or perhaps she had chosen to let it go. Sunny Hostin noticed. And instead of easing the moment, she leaned into it. "You said you define your own standards," Sunny began, her voice calm but edged with something sharper now. "But when you exist in the public space the way you do, your choices don't just belong to you anymore. They influence millions." A low murmur moved through the audience again. Jennifer tilted her head slightly, studying Sunny like she was trying to decide whether this was still a conversation or something else entirely. "And what exactly are you implying?" Jennifer asked, her tone controlled, but firmer than before. Sunny didn't hesitate. "I'm saying that when your relationships, your breakups, your reunions become global headlines, it creates a narrative. One that people, especially young women, watch closely." There it was, the shift from subtle critique to direct challenge. Jennifer's eyes narrowed slightly. "So now I'm responsible for how people interpret my life." Sunny held her gaze. "When your life is publicized the way it is, yes, to an extent." The audience reacted immediately, some nodding, others whispering in disbelief. Jennifer leaned forward slowly, her voice dropping just enough to pull everyone in. "Let me ask you something, Sunny," she said. "Do you think men in this industry get asked these questions?" A beat of silence. Sunny didn't answer right away. Jennifer continued, her voice gaining quiet power. "Do men get told their personal lives overshadow their careers? Do they get labeled for loving, for trying again, for not giving up on relationships?" A few audience members clapped, tentatively at first, then louder. Sunny finally responded, her tone measured. "Men are criticized too. But we're not talking about men right now. We're talking about you." And just like that, the room tightened again. Jennifer gave a small, almost disbelieving smile. "Exactly," she said. "We're always talking about me. My choices. My life. My mistakes." She paused. "But rarely about my work." That line hit. Because it wasn't entirely untrue. Sunny shifted slightly in her seat. "We did start by talking about your work," she pointed out. "Your new projects, your music, your films." "And within minutes," Jennifer cut in, not raising her voice but sharpening every word, "we were back to my personal life." The audience erupted, this time louder, more divided. Sunny exhaled slowly, as if preparing herself for what she was about to say next. Because your personal life has been a major part of your public story, she said. You can't separate the two entirely. Jennifer didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked out toward the audience, really looked at them this time. Not as spectators, but as witnesses. When I was starting out, she began, her voice softer now, but carrying a different kind of weight. I didn't have the luxury of being one thing. I had to be everything. Singer, dancer, actress, businesswoman. I had to fight for every space I entered. The audience quieted again. I remember being told I didn't belong in certain rooms, she continued. That I wasn't serious enough. That I was just a triple threat, like that somehow made me less. There was a flicker of emotion now, real unguarded. And now, she added, after everything I've built, we're still reducing my story to who I've loved. Sunny's expression softened, but only slightly. I'm not reducing you, she said. I'm questioning the balance. Because people look up to you, not just for your success, but for what you represent. Jennifer turned back to her, eyes steady. And what do I represent to you? She asked. The question hung in the air. Heavy. Unavoidable. Sunny hesitated, for the first time. Then she answered. You represent resilience, she said. But also contradiction. Strength and vulnerability. Independence, and a constant return to relationships that don't always seem healthy. The audience gasped again, this time louder than before. That wasn't just a critique. That was personal. Jennifer blinked once, then let out a slow breath. Wow, she said quietly. For a moment, it looked like she might pull back. Like she might choose diplomacy, redirect the conversation, regain control the way seasoned stars often do. But instead, she leaned in closer. You don't know what's healthy for me, she said, her voice calm, but carrying a razor edge now. You don't know what those relationships meant. What they taught me. What I went through. Sunny met her intensity. And the public doesn't know either, she replied. That's exactly the point. The tension between them was no longer subtle. It was undeniable. Two strong voices. Two perspectives. Neither willing to bend. And yet, Jennifer shot back. The public feels entitled to judge anyway. Because you invite them in, Sunny countered instantly. Silence. Not the soft kind. The kind that feels like pressure building. Jennifer's expression changed again. Less defensive now, more resolute. You think I invite judgment? She asked. Sunny didn't flinch. When you share your life the way you do, yes. Jennifer nodded slowly, almost thoughtfully. Then she said something no one expected. Maybe I share my life, she said, because I refuse to live in fear of being judged. The audience erupted, this time in full applause. But Sunny didn't back down. Or maybe, she said, it's because part of you still seeks validation. The reaction was instant. Gasps. Shock. Even the co-hosts looked stunned. That line crossed into dangerous territory. Jennifer froze for just a second. Just long enough for everyone to notice. Then her eyes hardened. Validation, she repeated. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. I don't need validation, she said. Not from the public. Not from the media. And certainly not from you. The audience broke into chaotic reactions, some cheering, others visibly uncomfortable. Sunny's expression tightened slightly, but she stayed composed. Then why keep explaining yourself? She asked quietly. And there it was. The question that cut deeper than anything before. Jennifer didn't answer immediately. For the first time since the clash began, she hesitated. And in that hesitation, the entire room leaned in. Because something had shifted again. This wasn't just about public image anymore. This was about something deeper. Something personal. Something unresolved. Jennifer finally spoke, but her voice had changed. Lower. More vulnerable, but still guarded. I'm not explaining, she said. I'm reminding people that there's more to me than what they choose to see. The tension didn't disappear, but it transformed into something quieter, more complex, more dangerous. Because now it wasn't just a debate. It was a revelation. And as the audience sat there, caught between empathy and disbelief, one thing became painfully clear. This conversation was no longer under control. The silence that followed Jennifer's last words wasn't empty. It was loaded. Thick. Almost suffocating. The kind of silence that doesn't calm a situation, but stretches it to the breaking point. No one moved. Not the co-hosts. Not the audience. Not even the producers behind the cameras. Because something had shifted again. Not just tension. Control. And it was slipping. Jennifer Lopez sat still, her gaze lowered for just a moment, as if collecting something fragile inside herself. But when she looked up again, there was a different energy in her eyes. Less guarded, more exposed, and somehow more dangerous. Sunny Hostin noticed it instantly. And for the first time since the conversation began, she hesitated. But only for a second. Jennifer, Sunny said, her tone softer now, but still carrying that unmistakable edge. No one is denying your accomplishments. You've built an empire. You've inspired millions. But when you say you don't seek validation, it raises questions because so much of your story has been shared in a way that feels curated. That word, curated, it landed like a spark in dry air. Jennifer's head tilted slightly, her expression unreadable. Curated, she repeated. Sunny nodded carefully. Yes, the relationships, the public appearances, the narratives that follow. It can sometimes feel like there's a version of your life being presented that isn't entirely authentic. The audience reacted immediately, uneasy murmurs, a few audible wows, a tension that now felt impossible to contain. Jennifer didn't speak right away. She just stared at Sunny. And then she laughed. But this time, there was no warmth in it. No, she said slowly, shaking her head. What you're not going to do is sit here and tell me my life isn't authentic. Her voice didn't rise, but it cut through the room like glass. Sunny straightened slightly. I'm not saying it isn't real. I'm saying the way it's presented. The way it's presented? Jennifer cut in, leaning forward sharply now. You mean the way the media presents it? The way people like you talk about it? A collective gasp echoed through the studio. The line had officially been crossed. Sunny's composure cracked, just slightly. People like me? She repeated, her tone tightening. Jennifer didn't back down. Yes, she said firmly. People who sit behind a desk and dissect someone else's life like it's a headline instead of a human experience. The audience erupted, this time louder, more chaotic. Some clapped. Others looked visibly stunned. Sunny's eyes narrowed. This isn't about dissecting, she said. This is about accountability and transparency. No, Jennifer interrupted again, her voice rising for the first time. This is about judgment. The word hung in the air like a final blow. And suddenly, everything started moving faster. One of the co-hosts jumped in, trying to lighten the moment, her voice slightly strained. Okay, maybe we can take a step back. But Jennifer wasn't done. For years, she continued, her voice now carrying raw emotion, I've opened my life to the world. Not because I had to, but because I believed in being honest. In showing the ups and the downs. Her eyes glistened under the studio lights. And what do I get for that? She added. People calling it curated. People questioning whether it's real enough. Sunny leaned forward again, her own voice rising slightly now. Because when you control the narrative, people are going to question it. Everyone controls their narrative. Jennifer shot back instantly. You do it. This show does it. Every public figure does it. The audience clapped loudly, some even standing. The energy was no longer just tense. It was explosive. Sunny tried to respond, but Jennifer kept going, her words coming faster now, more emotional, less filtered. You think I don't know how this works? She said. You think I don't see how people pick apart every decision I make? Every relationship? Every mistake? Her voice cracked just slightly. But it was enough. Enough to shift the entire room again. Because now, it wasn't just confrontation. It was vulnerability. I've lived my life in front of the world, she said, softer now, but still intense. I've loved in front of the world. I've failed in front of the world. And I've gotten back up, every single time. The audience applauded again, this time more unified, more emotional. But Sunny didn't clap. She watched Jennifer carefully. And then she said something that changed everything. But do you ever stop, Sunny asked quietly, and ask yourself why it keeps happening? Silence. Instant. Complete. Jennifer froze. The question wasn't loud, but it hit harder than anything else. The audience didn't react this time. They just waited. Jennifer's expression shifted, confusion, then disbelief, then something deeper. What does that mean? She asked slowly. Sunny held her gaze. It means, she said, that patterns don't just exist by accident. A ripple of shock moved through the room. That wasn't just a question. That was a challenge. A personal one. Jennifer leaned back slightly, as if physically absorbing the impact of those words. For a moment, it looked like she might shut down, like she might retreat. But instead, she stood up. The movement was sudden. Unexpected. And it sent a wave of gasps through the audience. Even the co-hosts looked stunned. Jennifer didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, looking at Sunny, looking at the audience, looking at the cameras. And when she finally spoke, her voice was steady, but filled with something deeper than anger. "Let me make something clear," she said. The room went completely still. "I am not a pattern," she continued. "I am a person. A woman who has lived, loved, learned, and grown in ways that most people wouldn't survive under this level of scrutiny." Her eyes locked onto Sunny's. "You don't get to reduce my life to a pattern," she said. "You don't get to turn my experiences into a talking point." The audience erupted, louder than ever before. Some stood. Some cheered. Some simply stared, stunned. Sunny opened her mouth to respond, but for the first time, she didn't have the words. And that was the moment everything truly broke. Because the producers were now signaling from offstage. The co-hosts were shifting uncomfortably. The structure of the show, the control, the format, the boundaries, it was all unraveling in real time. Jennifer exhaled slowly, her shoulders rising and falling as she tried to steady herself. And then she did something no one expected. She reached for her mic, paused, and gently unclipped it. The sound of it disconnecting echoed louder than it should have. The audience gasped again. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. Too real. Jennifer looked out one last time. At the audience, at the cameras, at the moment that had spiraled beyond anything anyone had planned. And without another word, she turned and took a step away from the table. The entire studio held its breath, because no one knew what would happen next. Would she walk off? Would she come back? Would the show even recover from this? And as the cameras struggled to keep up, as the hosts exchanged stunned glances, as the audience sat frozen in disbelief, one thing was certain. This wasn't just a heated debate anymore. This was a moment that would live far beyond the studio. For a moment that felt like it stretched into eternity, no one in the studio moved. Jennifer Lopez had taken only a few steps away from the table, but those steps echoed louder than anything that had been said. The silence she left behind wasn't just shock, it was disbelief. The kind that makes people question whether what they just witnessed actually happened. The cameras hesitated. The producers whispered urgently off stage. One of the co-hosts forced a nervous smile, glancing between Sunny Hostin and the space Jennifer had just left behind, as if expecting her to turn around and laugh it off. But she didn't. The tension didn't break. It deepened. Sunny sat still, her hands now clasped tightly on the table. For the first time since the confrontation began, she looked uncertain. Not defeated. Not apologetic. But aware. Aware that something had gone further than intended. "Okay," one of the co-hosts said carefully, her voice trying to hold the structure of a show that was slipping through her fingers. "Let's just take a moment." But the audience didn't move with her. Some were still staring at the direction Jennifer had walked. Others were whispering intensely, already replaying the moment in their minds. And then, a sound. Footsteps. Soft at first, then clearer. The entire room turned. Jennifer was coming back. But she wasn't the same. There was no hesitation in her stride now. No visible emotion fighting to stay contained. What remained was something far more controlled and far more powerful. She walked back to her seat, calmly, deliberately, as if reclaiming the space she had just shaken. The audience erupted into applause, loud, emotional, almost relieved. But Jennifer didn't acknowledge it right away. She sat down, adjusted her mic, and looked directly at Sunny. "I'm not leaving," she said simply. The room went quiet again, but this time it was different. Not tense, focused, because now this wasn't about reaction. This was about resolution. Sunny nodded slowly, her expression measured. "I didn't think you would," she replied. Jennifer inhaled deeply, then spoke, her voice steady, grounded, but carrying the weight of everything that had just unfolded. "You ask me why things keep happening in my life," she said. "Why there are patterns." Sunny didn't interrupt. Neither did anyone else. Jennifer continued. "Let me tell you something about patterns," she said. "They don't always mean failure. Sometimes they mean you haven't given up." The audience listened in complete silence. "Every relationship I've been in," she went on, "every mistake I've made, every time I've had to start over, it's because I believed in something. In love. In growth. In second chances." Her eyes softened, but her voice didn't lose its strength. "And maybe that doesn't fit into a clean narrative," she added. "Maybe it's messy. Maybe it's complicated, but it's mine. A wave of applause rose again, stronger this time, more unified. Sunny watched her carefully, then leaned forward. I respect that, she said. I really do. But part of growth is reflection. And sometimes asking hard questions isn't judgment, it's accountability. Jennifer nodded slowly. And sometimes, she replied, those questions cross into assumptions. There was no anger in her tone now, just clarity. Sunny exhaled, her posture relaxing slightly for the first time. Maybe they did, she admitted. That moment, small as it seemed, shifted everything. Because it wasn't a victory. It wasn't defeat. It was acknowledgement. The audience felt it too. The energy softened. The sharp edges of the confrontation began to fade. Not completely, but enough to allow something else to take its place. Understanding. One of the co-hosts stepped in again, this time more naturally. I think what we're seeing here, she said, is how complicated public life can be, and how easy it is to forget that there's a real person behind the headlines. Jennifer gave a faint smile. Sunny nodded, and for a brief moment, it felt like the storm had passed. But outside that studio, it was just beginning, because within minutes of the broadcast, clips of the confrontation were already spreading across social media. Every line, every glance, every pause, analyzed, debated, turned into headlines. Jennifer Lopez walks off the view. Sunny Hostin confronts J.Lo on live TV. Explosive clash leaves audience stunned. The internet divided instantly. Some praised Jennifer for standing her ground, for refusing to be reduced to headlines and narratives. Others supported Sunny, arguing that tough questions are part of public accountability. Hashtags began trending. Debates erupted. And suddenly, what had started as a morning interview became a global conversation. Back in the studio, the show moved forward, but the moment lingered. You could see it in the way the hosts spoke more carefully, in the way the audience listened more closely, because something real had happened. Not scripted, not rehearsed, real. As the segment came to an end, Jennifer was given the final word. She looked into the camera, not as a performer, not as a global icon, but as a woman who had just stood in the center of something raw and unfiltered. I know people are going to have opinions about this, she said. That's part of the world we live in. But at the end of the day, I'm still standing, still creating, still growing. She paused. And I'm not done yet. The audience stood, applauding loudly. Not because they had witnessed perfection, but because they had witnessed truth. The camera lights dimmed slightly as the show transitioned, but the impact of that moment didn't fade. It stayed. In the room. On the screens. In the conversations that would follow. Because moments like this don't just disappear. They echo. They challenge. They force people to choose sides, to question perspectives, to look beyond the surface. And now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Jennifer Lopez right to defend her life and choices so fiercely? Or did Sunny Hostin raise valid questions that needed to be asked? Drop your opinion in the comments below, because this conversation is far from over. And if you want more explosive, emotional, and unforgettable celebrity showdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to Talk Battles, hit that like button, and stay tuned. Because the next story might be even bigger.